What is up, everybody? It is Ben the NASCAR guy here with the stage break. We had a humongous Wednesday. The entire 2021 Cup Series schedule came out. We're definitely going to be talking about that and a bunch of miscellaneous news that came out from yesterday to now. So we're just going to get right into the brand new schedule that came out. I'm going to give my reactions to all the new, all the bad, all the good, all the whatever. Whatever NASCAR decided to throw on there, I'm in for it. I think they did a great job trying to add new venues and go back to older venues again and trying to create new culture while at the same time trying to go back to their roots. I think they did a great job of managing it. There are definitely some ehs in there, and there's some big great decisions they made, and I think that the direction they're headed with being willing to make changes like this that seem astronomical at the time are going to open the door for even more changes in the future and maybe go to other venues and start interchanging things and being even more different. And I'm really excited with the future, and I think that Steve Phelps, Steve O'Donnell, they're doing a great job with trying to just make something more interesting. I think they know that NASCAR has been on, it felt like the spotlight for a good portion of this year. At the beginning of COVID, they were the first sport to come back, and it felt like a lot of big news was coming out, and there was the whole Bubba Wallace situation that blew up. NASCAR's been getting a lot of media, good or bad, so I think they're using this as an opportunity to try to create new culture and just create a new image that they haven't had in probably closer to 2 decades. So getting right into it, let's see, for the new tracks they've added, for the new tracks that the Cup Series added to the 2021 schedule, we have Circuit of the Americas, Road America, the Indy Road Course, Nashville, and a dirt race at Bristol. That is 5 new, not venues, but 5 new configurations, we'll call them, that the Cup Series is going to go to in 2021. Only 1, 2, maybe three of them that a driver in the current field has ever driven on. Definitely Nashville and Road America, you'd think, in an Xfinity race. Michael McDowell, I've seen race there, definitely. And then the lower series guys, the rookies, have all been to Road America in the past recent years, so we have some experience there. The Indy Road Course was this year. Trying to piece together if any Cup guys were in that race. Allmendinger, I can't really count as a Cup driver, but I mean, he could get a ride for this race next year. That'd be really cool if Colleague and Spire maybe have a, what's the word I'm looking for, an agreement that Haley or maybe even Chastain will be in the Cup Series, but Haley or Allmendinger could get the road course races while Justin Haley races full-time in all the ovals. That'd be something interesting to think about for next year. But, man, NASCAR went road course heavy, and I love it. I think there needed to be more than just the 3 that we had. Even before the Roval came a couple years ago, there was just 2 road courses. That's so boring. So many left turns. You need a little bit more right turns on a NASCAR schedule. Get these drivers working. Show them who really is the best and the most skillful in every facet of racing, and I think they did a perfect job of adding good road courses to the schedule and big markets to the schedule, and I think it's all going to hit. Especially the road courses. Every single one of them is going to be great this year, I promise you. There's not going to be one that's, maybe the Daytona road course for the Clash might be a little just because that race wasn't the most entertaining during the regular season this year. But, I mean, all these are going to be great. I think fans are going to love it. I'm going to love it just watching it, something new, different, seeing the drivers that you've watched forever on a track that they've never been on potentially. It's creating a whole lot of scenarios that I'm really excited to see how they play out. With all the additions, though, we had to have some L's. Some losses were handed out to 2 big tracks in particular, and then another track just lost the date. Michigan just lost a race, which easy to understand. Michigan never needed 2 races, really. And then Kentucky and Chicagoland lost their dates outright altogether. Not going to be on any schedule next year between the big 3 and ARCA, I believe. At least Chicago is definitely not. I believe Kentucky's in the same boat, but Chicago is in deep shit. I don't see a good future for that track in general. I would not be surprised if it's bulldozed by the end of the decade. Even if they try to make a NASCAR comeback, I'm not sure it's going to last forever. It feels like that Chicago on their own, or whoever owns the venue or whoever owns the land, is like, we don't really care for this anymore. We have bigger and better plans that could potentially make us more money in the future, and that's how things work now. Everyone just wants to make the most amount of money possible, what can get them the most revenue, and if it's not a racetrack, it's a Walmart or an industrial facility, plant, whatever the hell they decide to put there, they think it's going to make more money than a racetrack, and I assume that's how the decision is going to go down, because it felt like when the NASCAR was figuring out what tracks they want to go back to, or not go back to, what tracks they could go to during COVID to try to piece together a schedule. I remember pretty quickly Chicagoland was like, yeah, no, and it was already all rumored that they were trying to tear it down, or there was a graphic set out of like what they want to do with some of the parking lot or what they plan on building, and it would interfere with actual land that the racetrack is on. So I'm not quite sure what the future of that track's going to look like, but I cannot imagine it is very bright. But it's kind of sad. That track put together some banger finishes. No one is going to forget Larson versus Kyle Busch. That was an absolutely legendary moment. Chicago just felt a little different than everything else because the curved backstretch, it was actually like a true oval compared to the straightaways that you see at a Kansas, or at least the back straight at a track like Kansas, and definitely like Homestead. So it sucks to see a track that actually maybe added some value to the schedule when it comes to mile-and-a-half races get kicked off. But again, I don't really think it was 100% NASCAR's decision to say see you later. It was a lot of the Chicago people, the people who are in charge over there. The other track that lost a date was Kentucky. It was a little bit surprising because of the recent history there, and the 2019 finish felt like enough to guarantee a re-signing, if you will. But I guess NASCAR was just heavy on, let's get off these 1.5 milers and start going to new places, and Kentucky just happened to get the axe. It makes sense for the idea of what they're trying to do, but I didn't think Kentucky was necessarily the worst mile-and-a-half again. I actually just wrote down in my notes that they could have gotten rid of the second Las Vegas race and the second Kansas race and fit both of those in the schedule, which I think would be cool to still go to new markets, have 2 more tracks on the schedule, and eliminate going to dates twice, because you really don't need to unless it's a track that, like, Daytona deserves 2 dates. Atlanta and Darlington both got 2 dates with this new schedule added, and I think that's fine with me. Darlington definitely. Atlanta may be more questionable, but again, I'm not pissed off about it. I think it's probably the best mile-and-a-half on the schedule, or the most prestigious, if you will. But they had the ability to take us, like, Pocono doubleheader, do that once, say screw it, go back to Kentucky or something like that, or go to a short track, which they didn't really add. They didn't really add a short track to this. Go to Iowa if you're not going to go to Kentucky. Go to the Midwest still. Find that market. And I hope they kind of venture to that. I would like to see maybe only 1 date at, if there's I got to count how many tracks they're going to be racing at next year, because it's well into the 20s now. But let's say they race at 25, 26 tracks. That could be 28, and that leaves 6 tracks with 2 dates. You got the 2 super speedways of Bristol, Martinsville, and you can figure out the rest. But it opens the door to have the most amount of venues and the most amount of, the most amount of markets they can reach. And I think that's all NASCAR has been trying to do forever, is to try to reach market, whatever it's new fans, old fans, trying to get new people, trying to maintain the old people that might be losing their views. But we'll see how the future pans out. I think 2021 is going to look great, regardless of Kentucky and Chicago not on it. I think just eliminating 1.5 mile tracks is huge and a step in the right direction. So I don't think there was really any terrible losses or terrible additions that I think are going to hinder the sport in the long run. I think it's all a good decision in the right direction. So going into the new additions, I want to give my thoughts on all of them. Just we got COTA, Bristol Dirt, Road America, the Indy Road Course in Nashville. I'm just going to shoot on a little bit each quick, how I think the races are going to go, what I'm going to be most excited about, and all that. So I'm going to start with Circuit of the Americas, because that is probably, if it's not Bristol Dirt, Circuit of the Americas is the most intriguing option, or the most intriguing new track that they added. When it was first rumored, I was skeptical, because I don't think Formula One tracks are built for stock cars in the slightest. I think it's very, very flat, and stock cars are built for momentum and a little bit of banking and speed, and I'm not sure it's going to translate well to a track like COTA, but I think that the inexperience of literally everyone in the field and not stepping on this track, I assume, ever. I'm trying to think of like Jimmy Johnson but it might have been at Abu Dhabi, or it could have been lying right to your face. And I know Tony Stewart and Lewis Hamilton did it, but I was at the Glen. So I'm not sure how many Cup drivers have ever even had a lap at the Circuit of the Americas, so I can only imagine it's going to be chaos down there. It's probably going to be one of the most aesthetic looking races. The way that track is painted and the way that they try to make it look all pretty for the F1 races, I assume it's going to look great for the Cup race. It's their inaugural race there, so I think they're going to go hard and try to make it look really, really pretty. And I just think the paint schemes of the cars driving by the painted runoff area is just going to look really, really cool. It's going to present for some great pictures and images that maybe NASCAR fans have never seen before, and can definitely get some other people hooked to the sport with just some pretty colors on a picture. Find a nice paint scheme that's their new favorite driver, and they'll watch next week. So I think just the location in general is really good. And I like that when tracks do kind of paint their try to make a little bit of creativity with their design. Like Phoenix does that light blue walls, and Kentucky did the green walls. Charlotte has done yellow walls or pink walls or whatever. Just having a little bit better of a different view. You don't want to see the same white walls, paved track, a little bit of grass in the infield and the pit road, and then everything in the infield. And you want a little bit of color. You want a little bit of eye candy when you go into a race, and not just on the race cars. You want the facility to look like, oh yeah, we care about what's going on here. We really think we're trying to make this look the best for you. And I think that Circuit of the Americas is gonna excel at that specifically. Let's see. What else we got about Circuit of the Americas? I'm a little bit year one in 2021 will be concerned about the on-track product, but at the same time I think it's going to be saved by the inexperience, because if drivers don't know how to race the track, or I don't even know what configuration they're going to run at the track. I got to try to find alternate configurations that are most likely to be run for the Cup race, pictures of it at least, and see what they're going to be working with. But there's a lot of tight S's, and I'm not seeing a lot of passing opportunities. That big turn one is a huge one. That's going to be really fun to see them go down. I mean, up and up, basically. They go up a hill and then take that left. But there's a lot of tight S's that remind me a smidge of the S's at the Indianapolis road course. And I just don't see a lot of passing opportunities coming in that specific area. But there are maybe 1, 2, 3 corners that I can find on that track that could create something great. Maybe the ladder chicane. NASCAR kind of does that at places just because. So we'll see what they decide to do. I think the configuration is going to matter 100%. And I think they're going to try to get all the passing zones possible they can on the configuration they run to try to maximize for the best product. So I think they're going to do the best they can, but I'm not going to sit here and say Circuit of the Americas will be the greatest race of next year. It will definitely be the most interesting, but I cannot sit here and say it'll be the greatest. So moving right on, we'll go to the Bristol Dirt Track next, because that is probably one of the other hottest topics, if not the last Cup race on dirt was freaking 50 years ago. And then when they decided to go to Eldora, you saw guys like Austin Dillon and Chase Briscoe. Bubba Wallace has won that race before. So there's some Cup experience on dirt in the last 10 years, and then you have guys like Clint Bowyer, or even Kyle Larson if he's in the field next year, Christopher Bell, who made a living on frickin' dirt. If Daniel Hemrick finds a ride for this race, please get him in there. Someone who who had made a living on dirt and made their name on dirt is going to be competitive as shit. Even if they've never driven a stock car like this on dirt, I think they got the upper hand. They know how to handle the cars, and I think everybody in the field has the car control today to survive that race, but it's a matter of putting together consistent laps, and I think that's where the dirt people of the world will come and thrive. And Larson is definitely, if Larson is in a car next year, he is the utmost favorite for that race. If Larson doesn't have a ride next year, he should try everything in his power. A team should try everything in their power to try to sign him for that race, because he's going to finish top 5. I don't care what car he's in. He could be in a Spire car, a Hendrick car, a Gibbs car. That man is finishing in the top 5 at the Bristol Dirt Race, no matter what is no matter what engine is under his hood. I promise you. So World of Outlaws did this twice in the early 2000s. I don't think Cup Series is going to be racing at the Bristol Dirt Track for more than 5 years, only because maybe it'll become stale. Eldora has kind of already lost a little bit of luster in the Truck Series, it has felt. So maybe, I don't know. I think the imagery of it is going to be enough to keep the fans coming, but if it's not taken, I want them to do their last chance qualifier. I want heat races. I want this to be basically a full-on dirt event that happens to be a Cup Series points race. So if they manage it well and they treat it like a dirt race and they respect the dirt racing community and try to make it not a gimmick, then I think it'll succeed. But if they try to take the gimmick route and just have it because it's cool and it's different, then it might not work. But as long as NASCAR takes care of their product and takes care of the fans, then they're going to be in great hands. And they said they were doing a lot of listening while making the schedule. Can't find one person who said, let's have a Bristol dirt race, but NASCAR probably felt it was the most obtainable dirt race that they could do. Bristol clearly has the facility to hold the cars. I think that would have been a big issue if they went to a place like Knoxville or any other dirt track. Can they hold 40 Cup cars? Can 40 Cup cars even fit on the track? Probably at some places, but I'm not the biggest dirt guy. I really can't tell you. But they were probably comfortable with going to Bristol, a place they could definitely get promo, a place they go there anyway. So why not try to work with them to try to create something new that has already happened before at the track and they've done before? And you think after 20 years, maybe they can do it even better than they did 20 years ago. So you think that they have the right idea going forward and that they know what they're doing. So let's just hope they carry through with it and it actually works out pretty well. Let's see. Road America. Road America is probably my favorite track that any NASCAR series has traveled to within the last 10 years. And one that the Xfinity race that I make sure I sit down and watch. If it's not a super speedway, it is absolutely that race. I have to sit down and watch it. I think everything about the track is interesting. It's different. Finally having the Cup Series go there is fantastic. 4.048, shout out Jimmy Johnson miles. This track is humongous. Plenty of opportunities to fuck it up, especially on the last lap or the coming to the last lap, as we've seen not thousands, but dozens of times at this racetrack. The amount of opportunities to create a caution, to get a late restart. There's just endless opportunities for a way a race can end at this track, and I'm so excited finally that the Cup Series gets to go there. Maybe in the future they can try to pair a IndyCar doubleheader, because IndyCar goes there, or IMSA even goes there as well. It took me until maybe this morning to kind of put together why'd they put Road of America on the July 4th weekend. And I heard, for camping reasons yesterday. And I'm like, that makes sense. People want to go on vacation, go see a race. Let's go to Road America. Let's go camping for a weekend. And it makes sense. But also, 4th of July, America's birthday, Road America. Hey, that all clicked in my head about 35 minutes ago. So that little play on words itself makes it enough. That's okay enough for me. They can go to Road America on America's birthday. That should be the 4th of July race if Daytona stays the cutoff race forever. I want Road of America to be the 4th of July race forever. It makes 100% sense, and I think they can market that absolutely perfectly. And imagine all those paint schemes. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. I'm so excited for next year. Another thing that's interesting, a little nugget of stat about this track, in the Xfinity Series, no driver has ever won twice. So I think that sets up great opportunity they've raced there 10 times, 10 different drivers, I believe it's the number 10 or 11. So if we get from 2021 to 2031, 10 different Cup Series drivers winning at a track and not seeing a repeat winner, evidence that I've ever heard in my entire life to keep a track on a schedule is that you're not seeing the same domination, even if there is a dominating race. Let's say they run 55 laps there and Chase Elliott leads 54. All right, Chase Elliott won't win next year according to history, so I'm with it. I think it's going to be great. I think it is one of the tracks that has deserved a Cup Series date for the longest amount of time, and I am so happy that it gets an opportunity finally. And we saw at the Xfinity race they raced here, they had that, I don't remember the name of the rule, but it was basically if the Xfinity Series or Truck Series is racing at a track that the Cup Series isn't at that weekend, they're doing an alternate pit strategy, basically meaning you have to spend at least a minute in your pit stall, which I thought was stupid. Even if it's trying to manage competition and try to keep everything fair, you can't gain or lose spots on pit road is basically what they're trying to do. And if a smaller team's having a good run but doesn't have the personnel on pit road to put together a good stop and keep them having the good track position, I think that's what they're trying to manage, which is fine, fair. But I think the Andy Lalleys of the world and the road course ringers who are in lower funded teams in Xfinity Series will find that top 10 regardless of strategy that NASCAR tries to eliminate. So, I hope that is absolutely eliminated. It's clearly going to continue at a track like Iowa or Gateway or something like that for the trucks, and even Xfinity still goes there, which Cup Series should go to Iowa. For fuck's sake, just go to a short track. You can do it. I promise you can, and you should. So hopefully if the 2022 schedule changes at all, Iowa's high on that pecking board of tracks that are up next. continuing the road course madness, bro. They went 6 road courses on the schedule this year. That's a little bit more than an eighth of the schedule. I mean, that is what they needed. I do kind of wish that they were spread out a little more on the schedule. In my last episode, I had Sonoma part of the West Coast swing. I think that could have worked pretty well, and just having a road course right off the rip. Again, trying to stretch it out through the season, because a lot of them, I think there's not one road course that is before the summer. I want to say that late May is Circuit of Americas, and that might be the first. Actually, I have a picture on my phone. But yeah, they kind of pack the road courses into the summer months. They try to get those camping in good weather. I think that's the point of it, if I'm thinking from a marketability standpoint, which is probably most of the decision-making when it comes to NASCAR and most other businesses. So I assume it's for camping reasons and to try to get the most amount of people there, because road courses can fit hundreds of thousands. So it makes a lot of sense to where they're put. But maybe in the future, I remember frickin' Riverside was the first race of the year forever. Just Sonoma's going to be warm in frickin' early March. Just go. Indy Road Course was not my favorite option that they chose. It felt slightly inevitable with the way that it was being talked up all year, and even in previous years with the attendance and people not being happy with the product on the oval. But it's too legendary of a racetrack to just ditch, in my opinion. They could have tried to figure something out. They probably ran a shitty package there this year, and the race sucked, and Harvick won it, of course. But I think they kind of ditched the oval off rip because there was one good Xfinity finish. I'm not going to say race, because there was a good Xfinity finish. They finished that race off fantastically. It was a 4-car battle to the end, and Chase Briscoe came out with that dive bomb on turn 1. I mean, great moment, epic finish, but I'm not going to sit here and say it's going to be the best race next year again. They do got the doubleheader with IndyCar, and Jimmy Johnson going to be running that doubleheader, or at least the IndyCar race, so that excites me a lot, to have the idea of Jimmy Johnson running 2 different series in a weekend, especially at a track like that. Oh, that would be great. So things like that make NASCAR fans happy. That could happen at Road America. That could happen at Indy Road Course, as we know. That if the IndyCar decides to go to the Roval, another opportunity. So collaboration is huge for me in motorsports, especially with IndyCar and NASCAR, being the 2 main American-based motorsports. Yeah, we'll call it that. 2 American-based motorsports that collaborate together and try to work together, because you need it, because F1 is clearly more popular than everything else. So try to just merge fan bases, try to work together into creating the best motorsports that you possibly can, and put America even bigger on the map, even if it's second, if you want to call it to F1. Those 2 are second and third, IndyCar and NASCAR. Regardless, try to gain ground, try to get eyes, and just maximize eyes on both potential sports. I do think IndyCar is, I'll say, quote, less popular, but I don't think it's unpopular. I just think there are probably more normal NASCAR fans that only watch NASCAR than there are IndyCar fans who only watch IndyCar. I do think there's definitely a lot of both. I assume a lot of NASCAR fans watch both, and vice versa for IndyCar, but there is definitely the select few that only stick to their certain motorsport. So just creating audiences for both and combining is just the smartest idea possible, and I hope it continues in the future. And I think this specific event, I think having the doubleheader, this will create the legacy to keep the road course on the schedule. Having the doubleheader, maybe having a person like Scott Dixon do the doubleheader, that would be crazy. It creates a much more feasible opportunity than something like the Coke 600 and then doing the Indy 500 would be for a driver. Even though that was epic to watch, it only happened a handful of times. Having something at the same track, on the same weekend, at the same configuration of the track, that opens a lot of doors for drivers to come and do the doubleheaders or the swap, or just having someone like Scott Dixon or Will Power in an IndyCar race, or Joseph Newgarden, will create new fans of Joseph Newgarden and Will Power and Scott Dixon, and those people will want to watch them on the IndyCar races, and vice versa for someone like Jimmy Johnson going to IndyCar, or who Kurt Busch could do it again, something like that. Kyle Busch has hinted at doing the Indy 500 and Coke 600 duo for a minute, so just having him get laps in an IndyCar, just creating moments is I think the big thing for NASCAR, and I think that's what they're trying to do, and I think they're setting themselves up for a lot of big moments in the future, and definitely in 2021 for frickin' sure. I do think as I said, if this isn't a mainstay on the schedule, if the Indy road course doesn't have longevity, it seems, if they alternate between going back to the oval and the road course, but every other year or something like that, I think that could be a great idea. The oval seems like it was just ditched. They probably felt like they didn't belong there because of the history IndyCar has there. But I mean, you created kissing the bricks. That is NASCAR. NASCAR can patent that shit. They kiss the bricks because of Dale Jarrett and Todd Parrott. That is a thing. So you have created history. You have created moments at this track, and yes, the on-track product hasn't been great in the past few years, and the attendance isn't there. But when you have a track that fits 250,000 people, you can't expect to have 250,000 people show up. There have probably been 30 to 40 to 50, closer to maybe even 100,000 people at each Brickyard 400 since 2010, but just not all of them are in the grandstands. So I think it's the visual aspect of having people in the stands. They think it looks shitty, so they're like, hey, let's change this up. Let's try something new. You know what? All for it. But I do think it was a ditched effort to try to get rid of the oval and create something new, and I really hope that they just decide to go back there at least one more time, because that track is too historic and too prestigious just to not have a Cup Series driver who has worked a lot, done so many things in his career, and maybe not like someone like Brad Keselowski. I don't think he's ever won the Brickyard 400. Damn, he must be bumming the fuck out. He has a Hall of Fame resume, but that isn't on there. Like, that would be something that would bother me if I was someone who was trying to click off wins in my career, for sure. The last new addition to the new schedule was Nashville. We knew about Nashville a little bit earlier this year. It was announced that they were going to go back. They're getting rid of the second Dover race because Dover and Nashville are owned by the same people, so that makes sense in my eyes. I think it's more entertaining in my eyes, regardless if Nashville sucks and performs like a Dover 2 race. Just a new venue, a new site, something different to watch will be interesting. Another inaugural winner will be added to the history book, so another cool little stat. I think it's going to be great. A little bit less than a mile and a half. I think it's 1.3 or 1.25 or something like that. Very odd length of a track for the Cup Series to go to, which I think is super interesting. Not the typical round numbers, we'll call them. Some a little bit different. I like it. The pictures, saw a picture of the surface come out pretty recently that the Nashville Superspeedway posted on their Twitter. And certain drivers were quoting it and saying, ooh, this looks like a nice weathered surface. And I mean, I didn't really put that together or think of that, but it makes total sense. You haven't raced on a track in 10 years. I mean, the pavement's going to be a little worn down, and that could create a lot of work for the drivers, which is exciting for us. And I'm sure that drivers prefer to be driving the cars than to just have a lot of air and momentum and all that. So it's going to be exciting. I hope that it performs and can stay on the schedule. I honestly feel like it could be a Kentucky 2.0 when it gets booted in 9-10 years, like Kentucky did, because Kentucky and Nashville hold the same vibe as me. Maybe that's just because they were off the Cup Series schedule for the longest time and only on the Xfinity and trucks, and like it just had that lower series vibe. And maybe I'll be wrong in that it'll perform and we'll have Carl Edwards come back and win every race there because he's Concrete Carl, and that would be absolutely a dream if Carl Edwards came back and just ran one Nashville race and called it a career again. I'm with it. Do it. You're the GOAT, Concrete Carl, bro. Show him what you got on that concrete, that old concrete. I was watching, I believe, the 2006. I'm not sure if they Busch Series raced at Nashville more than once, but it was a 2006 race at Nashville, and drivers like Harvick, Edwards, Hamlin, Paul Menard, who else was in that race? Boyer, like the people who are dominating the series today were racing in that race in 2006. So I assume that the drivers who were in the position to be racing in these cars, like Logano and Keselowski, definitely have starts there. People like that, I think they're going to probably have the most success, which is like in every other race, because those are the same drivers who would be competing well on a week-to-week basis anyway. But people like Chase Elliott or the Tyler Reddicks of the world, or whoever's a rookie next year, might not see the most success at a track like Nashville, considering they've never been there. And some of them might not have even been old enough to even comprehend that there was a race going on at Nashville, like myself. So that's all I really got for the new schedule additions and how I feel about the schedule. Again, I think it's going to do great. I think that the season is gonna hit. I think that all the road courses are going to be fun to watch. One thing I really don't like, that I understand and hopefully does not happen in 2022 and on, is that there are 28 races this next season that will not have qualifying in practice. Makes 100% sense. I'm glad they're actually doing it for the new additions to the track. I'm happy that they get some opportunity to, and they're doing it because of the unknowns of COVID and how next year is going to look for sports. So it makes sense. At the end of the day, it makes 100% sense. It worked this year, just slightly less entertaining. I like to see drivers earn the pole award. I think just that is a success in its own right. So having someone like Kevin Harvick or Hamlin sit on the pole every week, whether it's warranted or not, because they are the best driver in the series and performing the best, and whatever formula they use puts them there, which is rightfully so. Like, I want to see someone like Ricky Stenhouse get another pole, which is never going to happen in this format. Or even someone like Clint Bowyer, who, even if they run, I mean, last race performance does matter. So if someone like Clint Bowyer was to win a race and then maybe finish second in another race, you could assume that he would have a top 5 starting position in the third race. But again, you never know if a lot of it's based on last week's performance. If the same drivers are winning, you're going to have the same drivers up front. So I would prefer to have a little bit more of the earn your starting position, then we're going to give it to you. But it makes total sense with the landscape of how things are going. And COVID, too, I didn't even really think of how next year's sports are going to look like. So it makes sense for 2021. And they want to give teams all the time to work on the 2022 Gen 7. So it makes sense to have all these changes and all these weird circumstances for this year and next year, considering they are slightly lame duck years for how 2022 and the future of NASCAR is even going to look, because shit is changing soon. For miscellaneous news that kind of came out this morning or maybe late last night or at the same time that the schedule was dropping, big one, Chad Knaus is stepping away from the pit box after the end of this season to become the vice president of Hendrick Motorsports. Well-deserved, absolute GOAT. Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus sending it off in the same year, even if it's for different teams, is absolutely legendary. They will definitely be inducted in the Hall of Fame together, which is even more legendary. That's something that you want to see with Bill Belichick, Tom Brady. Just get out at the same time and then talk, and then have some of the most legendary 20-minute interviews because you're the GOAT forever. I cannot wait. I cannot wait for what the greats that we watch today are going to say when they reflect on their own careers or talk about the people that helped them along the way. I'm eating it up right now. It's great for Chad Knaus and even for Hendrick. If Chad feels like he can put more effort and help the team more in an office role, then all power to him. If he thinks he can add more value to that by doing that than he can on a pit box, then absolutely give other guys opportunities. I'm all for it. A lot of seats opening up. I saw, what's her name? Jenna Fryer. I saw someone put in my notifications like a screenshot of one of her tweets of like, it seemed to be rumors of where drivers are going to end up next year. And let me tell you, Matt DiBenedetto was not on that list one time. And yesterday was the deadline for Wood Brothers to assign him. So you can only assume that he is out of a ride for the foreseeable future. I'd think that he is good enough. He is good enough to be in the Cup Series. It's just a matter of having the availability of a ride, which is not really there right now. There are still plenty of other free agents that don't have rides. Someone like Eric Jones or Daniel Suarez has been rumored to a couple teams, especially the 43. That's a big one for him right now. And part of that Jenna Fryer tweet had even Ryan Preece losing a ride, so I haven't really even thought of that. Ryan Preece not being in a car next year. I mean, it makes sense. Not the most successful driver in the Cup Series, but he's also not on the highest powered team. So there will be hopefully an option for Matt DiBenedetto moving forward. I just hope he can get a win in something to try to validate his own career, because wins mean more than anything in the sport. So regardless, if you have one Xfinity win on your career, that is better than zero. And same thing with trucks. So just putting laps down and showing that you're here to stay and that you deserve to stay is what Matt DiBenedetto needs to do, and it's what he's been doing his entire career, and I don't expect anything different from him. If he's not in the Cup Series in 2021, we will see him in 2022, I promise you. Bill Elliott was announced to the Superstar Racing Experience this morning. I believe that's their sixth or seventh driver that they've announced. I am crazy excited to see how that goes. Bill Elliott, how about that? I'm pretty sure only Bill Elliott, Tony Stewart, Bobby Labonte are the NASCAR drivers of that series so far, and I'm super excited. I think that could I don't even know how old Bill Elliott is. I'm freaking looking that up right now. Bill Elliott age, because I want to assume Bobby Labonte is not 50. Could be lying right to your face. Let's see. Bill Elliott, 64, not as old as I might have thought. So you could think that he can race those cars. He'll be consistent. He'll be all right. And if there's only 8 drivers in the field, and if they're all pretty equal equipment, you think Bill Elliott knows what the hell he's doing. And I'm excited to see how he does. And all the NASCAR drivers, that entire series is going to be so exciting. And I believe it's coming summer next year. So in the midst of the meat of the NASCAR schedule, we're going to get the Superstar racing experience. So 2021 is going to be a big year for some motorsports, boys and girls. Some news that broke literally as I was about to start doing this. Maybe it didn't break, but I'd noticed it. That Hendrick Motorsports and Richard Childress are working together on a Chevy engine for next year, assumingly to try to boost production, their research and development, and even the performance of Chevrolet as a whole. Huge dub. Huge dub. This goes back to the same thing as IndyCar and NASCAR collaborating, having 2 teams of, quote, probably the worst manufacturer right now when it comes to finishing and wins and all that, working together and trying to find a common ground and just be more successful as a manufacturer is humongous. They're still working independently as organizations, and there might not be driver alliances, but if there's an engine alliance, you can assume that they're going to be willing to help each other in the future with other things, and with other Chevy teams like Ganassi. And they weren't necessarily involved in this deal, but having more powerful Chevrolets is going to help Ganassi, and you can assume that Ganassi is going to get their engines from whatever brand they call this, or whatever engine they call this. You assume that Ganassi and other Chevrolet teams are going to be a part of this as well, maybe just not on the forefront. But to be behind what it's felt like for 3 years, probably since Jimmy Johnson's last championship, you could argue that Chevrolet has been a little bit off, and he wasn't even the championship favorite that year. So since Jimmy Johnson wrecked the Pocono, Chevrolet has not been the same in 2017. So it's been 3 good years of mediocrity, and seeing Chase Elliott be the most successful, and Larson here and there, and Kurt Busch here and there. So finally, some hope for the bow ties. I'm really excited to see if their performance actually goes up, and if it actually benefits the teams and the manufacturer in general. But that is all I got for today. It was a huge day yesterday. The way it was dropping was so exciting. It felt like on the hour something new came out, and you were like, oh, I got to grab my phone. What did Bob Parker tweet? What did Adam Stern tweet? It was a great day. The way in all of NASCAR news has dropped this year has just felt like a surprise almost. I don't know. It's just been super fun to be a part of, super fun to watch, and it's going to be even more fun to watch next year. Thank you to all who tune in. You're the best. You're the GOAT. New episode going to be coming soon. If not tomorrow, get a Talladega recap. Maybe I'll do one at the beginning of next week. But regardless, enjoy your goddamn day. Everybody have a great one. Make sure you follow Ben the NASCAR guy on Twitter. I am out. Peace.